Welcome to You Are Not Alone, a recovery podcast. My name is Matt J, and on this show, we're here to share our experience, strength, and hope recovering from addiction. You want to get some more information about the show, where our social media links are, like Instagram, go to notalonerecovery.com. I'm doing most of my stuff on Instagram, to be quite honest, at NotAlonePod on Instagram. And we don't speak for any 12-step group. We do try to remain anonymous. And tonight we have the usual guys here, John I. and Steve C. And now we have, we're going to bring in the alcoholic of the moment, alcoholic of the hour, mixing some people into this program. So joining us, we've talked about him a bunch of times, is Tim. Tim, tell me about your level of excitement to be here tonight.
Yeah.
He's a true AA god.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just finding my paranoia to be true. Now I really do realize that people are talking about me behind my freaking back.
We are talking about you behind your back.
We're putting it on tape. If you're listening to this podcast, you know we're talking about you.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, and we've started going down the, I don't want to help you, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do your show. Well, that's Tim. Tim is joining us. So if you are somebody who has listened to the program, you've heard us make fun of Tim, playfully tease him as someone awfully crusty, but he thinks he's crusty. He's really not. Tim, tell us, you don't have to tell us your whole story, but tell us a little bit about you. What makes you tick?
Well, it makes me tick. Sometimes I'm not even sure myself, to be honest with you. All I know is that I came into AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, when I was 21 years old, originally when I first came into the program. And I kind of got harassed into the program originally. I got
harassed into a lot of things.
Into it. Yeah, I do. I really do. It's something I did not want to do, but I went to treatment just to have my mother stop nagging me. And when I got into treatment, I started hearing things that I hadn't heard before from the groups of people in the treatments, like, you can't do this alone. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do it by yourself, things like that, where my whole life I learned that no matter what, to get anything done, you have to do it yourself. You can't trust anybody to help you get anything along. And I was hearing the exact opposite of anything I'd ever been taught when I first came into the rooms. I mean, the exact opposite. When I came into AA, I always say, when I first got here, I had to be untaught everything that I was taught. You know what I mean? I had to remember the things that actually came natural to me. I mean, my first natural feelings, of people, places, and things were, you needed your mother when you were born. You needed people to teach you things. And I was untaught that I needed any of that. And I stayed sober the first time around for like 12 years, maybe 13 years. And I was, I go over the steps, and you know how they ask you the first question, what lengths are you willing to go to? They say, what lengths are you willing to go to? Any lengths, right? Well, I was lying for the first 12 or 13 years. I thought I was doing it. I mean, I would look at the steps. Yeah, I was an alcoholic. My life was unmanageable, But I believed back then, in the heart of hearts, even though looking through these steps, and I think back in hindsight, that I truly believed that I was just batshit crazy. There was nothing that this program or anyone else in the world could do for me. I mean, I was never, when they talk about like step 2, for example, made a decision or came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. My thought on that was, I don't even know what that ever was. I wasn't born with any kind of sanity or soundness of mind. You know what I mean? I never had it. So I just never really got a grip on it. And after years and years of doing things my way, I hung on for 13 years the first time around, just riding this thing out, and I thought time was everything. Time was going to fix everything. I was going to be okay. I had a month. That was awesome. 6 months, 9 months, a year. And time mattered. But as time went by, I didn't change anything in my life. I did nothing in my life that was suggested for me to do. Get a sponsor, let people into my life, trust somebody to let in and just changed my life entirely. I just wasn't really willing to do it. And eventually it took me 13 years, but I went back out, you know? So what makes me tick?
So how long were you out?
A lot of self-will.
How long were you out now? How long do you have again?
Well, I was out for 5 years, and I have over 15 years of sobriety now. Now, mind you, I swore I was never, ever, 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 ever coming back into the program. Yet, here I am 15 years later, sober, you know, by the grace of somebody else that is not me. That is for sure, because I just told you I was never coming back. That was just not happening. It wasn't in my plan. And I couldn't stand myself. I just could not. So it got to the point where I was drinking every day, absolutely every day. It doesn't matter if I was drinking a 30-pack or 3 beers, milking 3 beers on a Sunday. I was drinking every day. And but every time I went out and drank, I crashed my car, got into a fight. I mean, every single time. And I did not like myself at all. But nothing was actually happening to me. And I'm not an idiot. Again, I had a, head full of AA, and I knew, what was going to happen. Like I said, I couldn't stand myself as it was. And obviously nothing was going to happen to me. It was clear I wasn't going to die. But every time I got in my car, I hit something. Okay. And eventually I was going to hit you, and, so the last time I crashed my car into a Jersey barrier, I wasn't even sure it was a Jersey barrier. And I left the scene. I just left wherever I was. I mean, I was in a gray out, a blackout, whatever. I didn't know what was going on. And I just fled that scene. And it could have been a van full of kids. It could have been.
Did you leave the car there?
I did not. No. I literally left in this car. The tire was blowing out. The quarter panel was ripped. Sparks were flying off the side of the car. And I left. I was just driving. And then I pulled into some gas station up on Route 75 in Suffield and called somebody and managed to get out of there. But the point of the story is this. It got to the point where I knew I wasn't going to die, which I could have cared less about. But somebody else was going to. And I could barely live with myself as it was, but I couldn't live with myself had I hurt somebody else. So unhappily, my brother, who is not with us in the program here, said to me, remember that program you used to go to? It seems like every time you get in your car, you get in some accident. You think you might need to go back to that again? And I was pissed, but he was right. And I went back very unhappily and been back ever since. But I was not happy for a long time. I couldn't even talk when I came back into the program. I had no voice laryngitis. I'd hit my head on the side of the car, and something with my voice was gone for a very long time. I couldn't speak. In fact, it was so long, I was wondering if I was ever going to get my voice back again. But it was probably, I always say it was probably for the best when I first got back, because I didn't have a lot of good stuff to say anyway, because I was really pissed off. As you guys know, I can be a little angry. Yeah. Well, it did work. And then... See, here's what happened. I got back and I hung around for a while, and I still wasn't doing anything. I had, like I said, the relapse happened because I never changed anything in my life in the first place. The program that I'm involved in, and I know you said that there's different types of recoveries. Well, mine is Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's a set of steps that I live by. At least I choose to today. And when I got back, I had to make a decision, and my decision was, it was that I had to, I literally was looking, I was insane. I was absolutely insane at the time I made this decision. It's like at one point in time, I'm like, one hand, I'm looking to drink and go to jail or die. And then the other hand, I'm thinking to stay sober, work the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and maybe live a reasonable, happy life. That was literally a decision I had to make, and I made it consciously. And when I chose to stay, I had to dive into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that meant I had to do a fourth and a fifth step, which was, do a searching, fearless moral inventory of myself, and and then go over that with somebody, to admit it to God, to myself, and to another human being, the exact natures of my wrong, And I had to do it immediately when I decided to stay here. There was no more grace period for me. My first 13 years of recovery was a grace period. But that ran out when it ran out, and you don't get that glass doesn't get full again. So I've chosen to do that. But again, these are things that I did that I did not want to do. I didn't want to do any of this, none of it at all. I just I kind of got myself cornered, you know what I mean? Where, I'm an angry person still to this day. I think I'm a little better than I used to be. I talk about my anger all the time.
A lot better.
Yeah. Well,
a lot better.
Well, we can talk about where I met John too. I met John up at a retreat.
Well, before we get into that, kind of circle back a little bit, because I like your back in your story. I like how when you came back the second time, how you told us that every time you drank, you smashed up your car, and then towards the end, without giving the whole story away, you had a car that didn't have one piece of metal on it that wasn't dented. And then after you got sober, as you got healthy, what happened to your car? I love this story.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, see, that's another thing that those things just kind of happen. That story just comes out, right? I mean, over a period of time, I'm driving this brand new Honda Civic at the time. I think it was a 2004 Honda Civic. Every time I got in it, I smashed the thing, one time I sideswiped the passenger side, and the mirror came off. There's a couple scratches on that side. Then I smashed the front end. Then I hit the Jersey barrier. And I literally, I had to cut the wheel well off on the driver's side. The door was smashed off. And I had no mirrors. I had no rear view mirrors in the back of my car, on the sides of my cars, none whatsoever. And this car was just brand new, and it was just smashed to shit. I smashed every orifice of it. And I always referred to my car as like my recovery. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I was smashed all to shit. It was dense. I had, my fenders were zip tied up, all sorts of stuff like that. And as I progressed and started working a program, and working and getting a job, I would buy, like at one point in time, I bought a mirror for the passenger side, and I put a brand new mirror on the other side. It was a different color. It was like black. My car was blue, by the way. It was a dark midnight blue. Then I got the whole front bumper, and again, that was black. You know what I mean? And I started putting this car back together again, but it was solid. Now it was a good solid. It was a different color, but it had no dents in it. Then I got the front driver's side quarter panel. I put that on, and then I put the door on the other side, the driver's side door on with a brand new mirror as well. And the car finally had no dents in it whatsoever, and this is as time went by in my recovery. And the problem was, all the parts were still, they had no dents in them, but they were all different colors. They still didn't match quite. They still didn't quite fit. You know what I mean? Kind of like I didn't quite fit.
Yeah, it's just a perfect analogy of, how you came back and you started to work the program and take care of yourself. And as you healed, you got better, and the car got better at the same time.
Exactly.
Because as you got better and just saved up a couple of dollars instead of, spending it all on, whatever, drugs, alcohol, who knows, who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But, you put yourself together, and then you started to put the car together. So the car ended up being a testimony of your recovery. I've always liked that.
In more ways than one. You want to know why? Because at one point in time, I was sitting in that same car, and I had a guy sitting in the back seat and another guy sitting in the front seat, and we were backing up, and the guy's head was in the way. Now, this is after I fixed the whole car. I backed up and hit it into a quarter of a telephone pole. I put a new dent in the backside, right? Okay. So now the car was fixed, except for the thing I did during the program, right? We all have bumps in the road, right? Even in recovery, right? We have bumps in the road, so it's a freaking thing. I didn't even react to it. They were like, when I smashed this car into the telephone pole and I just pushed it forward, went forward and backed around it, and we just kept going. He goes, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? What am I supposed to do? And look at it. It's just a dent in the car, And then another thing is, eventually that car got repoed. That car ended up getting repoed. I put all that. Could you imagine being the repo guy coming to get this car that was just like totally devastated? It was just totally trashed. Multicolored, putting it on the tow truck, and just like, really? Just the other day, to add even more. Now I got that thing repoed like 12 years ago. Okay, maybe 13 years ago. So I was a couple years sober. Cause I just couldn't. I wasn't working. Whatever. It got repoed. I voluntarily repoed it. I didn't try to hide it. I didn't do all that crap. Just the other day, I got a check from Wells Fargo because I had overpaid them for my repo. 12 years later, they sent me a check for like $219. So sometimes good things happen for no reason either. I don't know.
There you go.
There's a moral to that story either.
Take that money. Take that money and spend it.
Hey, it is what it is, right? I don't know.
So if you're new and you think you might have a problem, maybe there's some stuff in Tim's story you can identify with. I will say that 13 years is a long time to be kind of coasting. I don't think I could. That's a long time to be holding your breath.
Well, seriously, listen, it was not, I was in agony. I was absolutely miserable. Like I said, I was still riding on that there's nothing anyone can do for me thing for that long. I mean, like I said, my length of sobriety, I held on to that for a long time until I got to the point where my attitude never changed. Look, sometimes I don't know if my words make any sense, but my attitude never changed. For 13 years, I stayed the same. And eventually my time didn't matter anymore. I didn't sit there and go, maybe I was young. Maybe I was just too young. Maybe I just didn't. No, I didn't. My attitude was, my attitude got so bad, I didn't care. I was an alcoholic and I just wanted to drink. And that's what I did. And I drank because I just didn't care anymore because I never did anything to fix or change any of my behaviors or my attitudes or anything whatsoever. The world was still, the world. I still blame the world for everything. You know what I mean? And I never fixed anything. I never healed any resentments. I never forgave. I was never forgiven. I never did any of that stuff. In fact, I came into the program and I added more stuff to my list of things to clean up later. The first time around. So.
I can remember you when you first came back the second time. Now, our circle of friends were the same. We never really met back 30 years ago, but we were hanging with the same people. Like Kenny Conga, he kind of, or Concrete Kenny, whatever. His many nicknames. Let's like Pepperoni Bob. It was amazing. The paths that we had taken. But I remember when you came back, you had gone out and you had come back, and we first, got acquainted up at the retreat, and you didn't want to know from nothing. I mean, you had that beanie cap down your eyes. Your eyes were just, barely coming through. You were sitting in the back, and it's like, I don't want anybody around me. I don't want to speak to anybody. I don't want to be here, but they tell me I got to be here, so I'm going to be here. And I think
I remember that speech at the one retreat I went to.
Oh, he said that almost every time
when he gave me the flu.
Yeah.
Seriously, there was a point where I literally said out loud to people, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
Just leave me alone. Like, I'm not, you know how people exaggerate and say, I said this and that. No, I said, leave me alone. I'm not chairing a meeting. I'm not chairing the thing. I don't want to speak. I don't want to. I literally meant it. You know what I mean? But again, what I got out of that was exactly what I deserved. I say that all the time. I've always gotten exactly what I deserved, which was misery. More misery. I mean, I didn't get anything out of those retreats. Maybe a couple of little good fellowship moments, but the pain. That's all I kept getting from all that.
See, I disagree.
Not being part of it.
I see. I disagree. Oh yeah, because you got to know me.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Eventually, I mean, but I didn't even want to do that. I didn't want to know anybody.
Because we both relate to being in the hole with the rock pulled over the top of the hole and hiding from society.
Yeah, I just did not want to.
That's the one thing, the one bond that got us to become friends is we're both there. The commonalities that you find in Alcoholics Anonymous are unreal, and they're not like you find anywhere else, the connections you make. And it's the weirdest things that make the connections. And I've seen you grow since, being that guy with, just he didn't want anybody around him. I mean, it was like and like he said, he was very, very, very vocal about it, but it was something about him that there was still some attraction, little by little he started to open up, but I've seen him change unbelievable in the last, 13, 14 years, from somebody that just didn't want to be here, who was here not under duress. Protest. Yeah, thank you, Steve. He was on severe protest, and is like, I have to be here. I don't want to be here. Yeah. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. To a guy that
my sponsor won't be my sponsor anymore if I don't go to this meeting and this meeting and be there, but I'll be there.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I remember meeting Timmy. I met him at your house at the Joe and Charlie. That was the first time. I mean, maybe I'd seen him before that, but that was the first time where we sat around in a small group. And I didn't know him, and it took me a while to sort of like, who is this guy?
And this was by the time you met me, I was I was coming out of the clouds, and I was actually getting a little better at that time.
No, you were. I mean, this was what, 5 years ago, maybe 5 years, 6 years ago.
Yeah. I was in a perfect spot for a long time.
And I remember just taking me a while to sort of figure it out, just to figure out who you were and find out if you were somebody who I liked. I mean that, and try to figure out. And then I heard your story. My story is similar, not as much pain, I don't think, but I was 14 years before I drank. Same thing. Did none of the work. Didn't need it. Didn't want it. 14 years and made a whole mess of my life. Trust me, made a whole mess of my life in the years where I came in 95. By the time I went back out and drank. And I started realizing, and then really, Timmy one time started teasing me because I would say, like, as my friend Timmy will say, I don't want to do stuff. No, and I mean it. My first reaction, and I'm not as stern and probably as vocal publicly with it, but internally, my first reaction is no to everything that I'm asked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's no, I don't want to do that. And I felt the same way when I came back this time, and I have 11 years this time. So a very similar thing. When I came back this time, I just did stuff because there was no other thing for me to do. Right. I mean, I had made such a mess out of my life that I could only do what was put in front of me, and I had to do it whether I wanted to or not. And it was the same thing. I went to meetings, I did stuff. I talked about it all the time. I went through these steps completely under protest. No. Telling my sponsor, I don't think this is going to work, but I'm going to go through them because you told me I need to, but I don't think it's going to work for me.
True. For me too, I got to be honest. I mean, that's all, all fear. It's all fear-based stuff for me. I mean, it really is. Like I said, being here, talking to you guys, I don't feel like I have something to offer all the time. I just don't feel it. You know what I mean? Or am worthy of it. But like I said, I got to a point where I had the choice was either try to do this or drink and die or kill somebody else. Those were my options. There's no other thing. So, and I have gotten to the point, and I know that I can be sarcastic and I say things as a certain light, but I've gotten more to do. Now I'm more doing. It's gotten to the point where I'm doing what I want to do now. You know what I mean? It's not so much that I don't want to do it anymore. Don't get me wrong. I will feel like I just don't want to do something at a certain time for a particular reason. But the program has also taught me about myself. I know when I'm screwing myself. That's the gift of this program that I've gotten. And I haven't even gotten a chance to talk about that, is that I cannot fool myself anymore. You know what I mean? I've learned that, okay, Tim, you can say no to something. Maybe there's a time where I don't feel like going to a meeting on a particular night because sometimes maybe I'm so tired it might do me more harm than good. Maybe, but I got to know that I'm not bullshitting myself. But if I start saying that every night, then that's a problem, and I'm only hurting myself. Right. But for today, I mean, every single thing, and I look at this and I have a lot of gratitude about it. And sometimes I don't want to help people. Sometimes I don't want to pick people up. Sometimes I still to this day. But every time I do, I feel better. I just feel better when I do that stuff. And when I reach out and people are, everything that I have today, and I haven't even explained how I got that, but you guys know that. Maybe you can add to that. But everything that I have, everything that I do, everything that's going on in my life is because I am sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's not one thing that I am doing today because I chose to do something my way. Not one thing. And I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody at all.
Yeah, I want to jump in for something that you said. You were on a roll here, but you said something that I don't think I've heard you say before, but it is a great alcoholic trait, and it's that not feeling your own weight and not having that self-confidence. And hearing you, I don't have something of value for somebody else. And
right.
I feel that a lot of times too. And sometimes I have to hear it from somebody else of, no, that's in a way, that's a selfish way of thinking, that everybody has value of some level. But if you're talking down yourself of, I have nothing to offer somebody else, man, you're wasting your talents. Anybody who has gotten sober and has a story has something rich that they can offer somebody else. Although my story is not your story, I will tell you, yours and Steve's story scare the hell out of me. That keeps me sober because I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I'll let the two of you have had the pain so I don't have to have it myself. And that
see, the problem with that though, Matt, is not everybody struggles from this terminal uniqueness thing.
Yes.
It's not going to happen to them. It won't happen to them.
Yeah,
that's not me. It's not whatever. Well, let me tell you something. It's going to happen. It'll happen to me. I've learned the hard way. Look, the first time I, you know how many times I got pulled over for drunk driving in my first 21 years of my life and never once got a DWI? More than I can remember. And I ended up getting one when I went back out. I started collecting yets, the things that were never going to happen to me, and they did. But like I said, I don't have to go back there anymore, and I just don't have to do it ever again because of what this program has given me. Anything that I know, like I said, I have no pearls of wisdom that are my own. I really don't, other than my own experience. I tell some of the sickest people I've ever met, and I am one of them, is that you have more to offer anybody else. If you get better, you have more than you can imagine to offer anyone else. People have taught me things like, I tell people all the time, you can teach me exactly what I don't want to be like too, Matt. You know what I mean? You can teach me what I don't want to be like. I've sat in meetings and I've listened to people share, and I used to get so mad. This guy's so full of shit, man. He don't work the program. He's fucking like all this nonsense he's talking. Give me a freaking break. And I get mad. What good does that do? But the bottom line is here's what I got to do. Is the message, even though he's a lying sack of shit, okay, not, whatever.
I know you're
whoever, I'm not naming names, okay? A lying sack of shit. Is the message still true? The message is still true. I need to hear the message all the time, even if it's from a liar. You know what I mean? As long as the message is pure, I need to hear it over and over again because I will forget. I'm left to my own devices. I will just forget. And then I will go back to where I came from. And I don't want to go back to where I came from. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, you're a power of example of going to any lengths to stay sober. You found a network, you found a group of meetings or a bunch of meetings that work for you, and you travel 45 minutes to an hour to get there.
Yes.
Religiously, and you go to a lot of meetings. But the one thing that I've come to know about you over the years is you have a very powerful message. And when you speak, people listen because you have a way of explaining things in your way that makes sense to a lot of people. From when you first got sober and you just kind of put it in neutral and coasted downhill, to your experience of going out for 5 years and saying, I can't live like this anymore. I gotta try this again, but I'm not going to do any work. Everybody can identify with, I'm here. I don't want to do this shit. You want me to do what? You want me to tell you all my stuff? I don't even know you. What are you going to do with all this stuff? But this is what they tell us to do. So I'm going to do it, but I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And I mean, that's your message is so true and so pure that every time you speak, that's your message that's coming across, that I do this because this is what I'm supposed to do. And I feel better doing it. And that's why we all do that. We go up to that newcomer that's walking in for the first time, and we go up and they shake their hands because they're alone. And we try to make them feel not so alone anymore, that, recovery is possible, and we're friendly, and we're here to help, and we'll help you along the way. All you got to do is hop on board and go for a ride with us. And that's, you're a great power of example. And I'm glad to call you my friend.
When I first came back this time around, I did make a phone call, and like I said, I barely had a voice, but I told a guy, the person that I called, what had happened. And he was like, holy crap. And I'm like, and my moral of my story was, out of all the people I distrust you the least. That's what I told him when I came back in. And I'm telling you, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's just like giving somebody that's a crack. So it doesn't take much to come back. It doesn't take much to get started, because I was talking to him and I told him straight up, out of all the people I distrust you the least. That doesn't mean I trust you. It means I distrust you the least. And that's all I had to give, and that was me coming into the room. And again, talking to people was not an option because I didn't have a voice, literally. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, one of the things, Timmy, is our literature talks about exactly what you just described there, right? It's grabbing that flimsy reed, right? If you know, right? And I don't have it in front of me, but it's grabbing what we think is a flimsy reed and having it be a taproot, right? And that's what you said. So that little bit you said is that flimsy reed, like, you're the person I distrust the least. That's all I have today. And that was enough to get you back into this program, and not only back into this program, Tim, but it's just like me, back in this program into a life that you describe it as something you can't even believe anymore, right? We're talking about where you live, and they call it Timsville, right? And Timsbury.
Excuse me, Timsbury, yes.
Timsbury, right?
Get it
Timsbury.
Right.
And I will. And, so same thing with me. It's like, listen, when I came back, I didn't have a problem telling people my shit. Like that's not a problem. I'm a sales guy. I can talk. That's not a problem. My problem is I didn't want to hang out with you guys. That was my thing. I just didn't want to hang out with you. Yeah. I'd go to meetings. I'd stay sober. I didn't want to drink. Yeah. Okay. You can help me with that stuff. But that's all I wanted to do. And when I left a meeting, like I didn't want to have ice cream or coffee with you or anything like that. And that's where I went kicking and screaming into this stuff. It's like, no, you weren't my people. You weren't my kind of people. And it just, if you hang around long enough, and if you do the bare minimum, a lot of times that this program will get you. And the other thing you were saying earlier is, like, today I can go to a meeting and I could look at that person who's that lying sack of shit, that person, and we all know there's these people. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but 20, 30 years of sobriety. And they're just as crazy as the newcomer. And I just look at that person today and go, I don't want to sound that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be here for 30 years and sound like that.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Right. So that there's always a lesson from everybody. From me, is like, whether it's a lesson of, oh yeah, I got to remember that and do that, or it's a lesson of, I don't want to be that person. So yeah, there's lessons all through this program. And it's about what we want. Today I want the lessons. I want to learn stuff. And I feel this exact same way. There's nothing that I could tell you about AA that's an original thought. Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have an original thought when it comes to recovery. I only have a religion, like I said, I can tell you my story and my stuff, but everything else is just stuff that you guys taught me. That's it.
I think the mature rationale is understanding that and being okay with it. You do not have to have original ideas. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. At first, I would hear people share the same story over and over and over again. There are some people who open their mouths and I can almost mouth exactly what they're going to say. But I will tell you, some of those people, it's good that I've heard that a million times, because it finally has stuck.
Can I respond to that too? Because here's what happens to me. And I'm speaking again for myself, as self-centered as I am. What you just said, Matt, was that you could hear what somebody says over and over and over again. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Why has he got to say this all the freaking time? And then it dawned on me one day that he wasn't necessarily saying it for me. Maybe he's saying it for the person who's hearing it for the first time, not me, the one that's heard it for the 1,000th freaking time. You know, and it took me a long time to realize that, yes, meetings are for me and about me, but they're not all about me. They're about the newcomer. They're about that, you know. And I'm so glad that I've stuck around long enough, because the longer I'm around, the less I truly know. I really do. I mean, I've done more than 1, 4th, and 5th step, because things come up all the time, and I'm changing all the time. And when I stop changing, I'm going backwards hard and fast. And I don't want to do that at all, man. I'm so glad. Like I said, there are things about me that are going to be a constant work. You know, one of my biggest hang-ups when I was around the first time is that things weren't changing for me enough. I was judging my insides by other people's outsides, and everybody else looked good, and I felt like shit. And I said, this didn't work for me. And then when I came back, I realized that everybody was more fucked up than I was when I got back. Like, holy crap, all these fucking guys are into porn and all sorts of other weird shit. You can delete that if you have to, but whatever. But I mean, no, I'm just saying, you know, I got to see people as being the way they were. We're all sick people trying to get better. You know, that's all we're trying to do here. We're not sick people got all better. You know, it's a constant work, trudging. And I used to dread the work, and now I don't dread the work anymore. You know, I just really don't. I find it it's now a way of my life. This is what I do for my life now. I can see things clearly, and like I said, I still have issues. I'm intolerant. I'm impatient. But I always know it now, and I can stop it faster. I can do less of it, whatever. You know what I mean? The program has given me a lot, and including friends and people, you know, that I never wanted. I didn't want this. You know, I say a lot of things all the time, like you said, but I've gotten to have a lot of friends, but if I could still find a way to do this without any one of you, I would, because that's my natural way of being, is to isolate, like John says, hide under a rock. If I could do and have everything that I have today from under a rock, I would go under the rock and say, see you guys later. You know, and that's not even personal. That's just me, and that's the internal me that I'm constantly trying to fight off. You know what I mean? I always say the old Timmy is inside of me screaming to get out. And I just pray him away. And so, you know, I'm just so glad to be what I refer to as awake today. I have been awakened as a result of the program and the people in it and what they've taught me, you know, that I don't have to be that person anymore. And I'm just not, you know. And every problem that I have today, again, like I said earlier about all the gifts of the program, yeah, we can all talk about, you got the houses and the cars and the jobs and all that stuff. Well, guess what? I got a flooded basement. I got a leaky roof. I got 2 broken storm doors. And it's all thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, it's all thanks to, you know, I wouldn't have broken storm doors, leaky roofs, or a flooded basement if it wasn't for AA.
I know a guy who would trade that for you, who has feces rolling into his basement.
Well, yeah, no, I think I overheard that part of that. I didn't need to get the details, Steve, but
I did
maybe
have
we can
feces.
call in the offshoot and talk about it. But yeah, I don't need any
little
more
baby
shit,
roofs floating in through the pipe.
It was. But
yeah, so the gifts come in all different types of packages, guys.
Tim has so much more to share about his recovery journey. So many more things that he didn't want to do, ended up doing, and how it impacted his sobriety in a positive way. We talked about his outdoor meeting he started at his home during the height of COVID, and how he was creative enough to keep this going during the winter, how he tried his best to be cranky, to be left alone at meetings, his painting, his gardening hobbies, so much more. All of this stuff where he put up the wall, leave me alone, don't want to talk to you. People didn't go for it, and how it pulled him out of his shell, and we're so much better for it. Lots of recovery talk that was so good, we made it into 2 episodes. Come on back next week to hear the second half. You're going to love it. Have an awesome week, everybody.